First of all, let's go back and let's go to the start of the game because I thought the game plan was outstanding, Skene.
Yeah.
What did you see differently? They were putting a lot of guys into motion. They were running some sets that I hadn't seen this year. What did you see from the offense that was a little bit different?
Well, the base offense, and as far as us blocking, I think we settled in and we got Corum going on some first downs, which were pretty good. In the first half here, we only had 2 on 1st and 10. We only had 2 rushing attempts of less than 2 yards on our first downs. That's pretty good, right? So plus 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're second and mid, second and short. That changes the whole way you call a play or you call the game from a coaching staff. Of course, the pass pro was good in that first half, but schematically, our tight ends were like, where's our tight ends? Where's our tight ends? We thought they were going to be such a big part of this offense. Tight ends are run these little button hooks, and I think they were using those tight ends to clog the middle of that field as we're running crossing routes as Alabama tried to man us up and created some seams, and all of a sudden we got guys that are open. The frustrating part was where's Cornelius Johnson? Where was our veteran guys out there on the edge? What role was Donovan Edwards going to have to play? And so much of this was going through Samaj as a freshman. It felt like, man, did they really set this game plan up around this freshman? It felt like it at times. So and I couldn't see from the angle I was watching. There was a lot of the stuff, on the television broadcast there, Balas. You can actually just watch the sky cam the whole time. Yeah. It's the greatest thing ever for watching line play. So I think the Michigan coaching staff obviously had a great game plan coming in. They executed it very well in the first half. They, as the coaching staff, called it very well. It could have been executed better, I think. We talked about in the opening of this discussion here. If our quarterback just kind of took a few more deep breaths and settled in a little bit faster, because we know how much better than that he really is. And yet we didn't see. I don't know, Balas, do we even throw the ball down the field deep once in that game? I don't think we did.
One to Cornelius Johnson where he actually had him open on the right sideline, and
he was overthrown.
And it was like 10 yards over his head.
It was over his head. Wasn't even close.
Exactly. Yep. That's an example of JJ, not being JJ. Like you said, normally that ball would be on the money. Yep. So, and then there were some fastballs, I thought, Skene on some of those little slants.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
these are all indicators of a quarterback who is pressing, who's, again, heart is beating out of his chest. He's breathing hard, he's just not comfortable out there. And the reason I say this with a certain level of confidence after watching him the last 2 years in other big games, it's like this kid's freaking out a little bit out here in this moment. And I've been there. I've been in huddles. It is a big moment. I'm not killing him for it. I just, we just expected more out of him. He did a great job leading us in so many critical moments. But again, he's better than even what he did.
Yeah, and he was the MVP of the Bowl. That's the funniest part about it. 3 touchdowns, and the little flare out to Blake Corum for the first touchdown. And what a drive, what a response, right? To settle down and come back after the fumbled punt. And special teams have been great all year. I'm not going to get on Jay Harbaugh. Some guys made mistakes. It could have been difference-making mistakes, and should have been, or could have been when it comes to the extra point and when it comes to the muffed punt here.
It was a touchdown, right? I mean, see, 7 of Alabama's points were off of the muff punt, and of course, that is not a coaching thing. It's not like Jay Harbaugh is coaching them to take those risky catches. We just got to be more secure in the way that we catch the football.
Yeah.
But the one late in the game when he switched up his returner, I'm not in practice, but I think the old standards go, if you're standing on the 10-yard line with your heels in the white and the ball goes over your head, you don't catch it.
No.
You let it go. And so we made that mental mistake. And so it's just a series of special teams mess. And, again, we found a way to win the game. I'm expecting that to all be cleaned up for next week against Washington. But, the story of the game was the roller coaster of the offense, the special teams, which are very uncharacteristic of Michigan. We overcame those mistakes in a defensive front that was all off the chain. It's just unbelievably effective and caused so much confusion. And that Alabama offensive line, I'm watching the replays, and I'm like, these guys have no idea where the blue shirts are coming from.
Yeah.
Jesse Minter and that defensive staff are unbelievable at game planning against that Alabama front and using their inexperience. Their left tackle, my lord, that guy's going to be an unbelievable football player in his career. That young kid,
Right.
but he was not playing with a lot of confidence when he was in pass pro run blocking. He's a monster.
Yeah.
But and he moved some people several times as well as their offensive line. But in pass pro, they didn't know what was going on,
No,
Ballas.
his head
But
was
it
spinning.
was a combination of D line twists and combat and linebacker blitzes and
Yeah.
safeties coming up. They didn't know what was going on, and it was, from our perspective, awesome to watch.
It sure was. And Jesse Minard kind of told us what to expect using some of their experience against them. He said, "Yeah, look, these guys are great football players, but they're great. They're great athletes right now who will become great football players with experience." And I said, I went down there on the field before the game and I was looking at the bodies and the body types. And again, every time you see these games, because these are the best of the best athletes in the country that Alabama recruits. Michigan's got some good ones too, but the body type is different. And I thought, holy crap, if these guys play like they look, you're in trouble. At the same time, I thought Michigan's defensive linemen, I thought they were faster. I thought they were stronger and more experienced, and that counts for something. But really, credit to the Michigan offensive line, who I underestimated. They needed to play their best game in this game, I thought, to win. I didn't know that they had it in them, especially with Zach Zinter out. But really unbelievable performance.
Yeah. And the two tackles in particular, those were our concerns, right? Ladarius at
Right.
left and then Trente at right. Trente's been a strong run blocker his entire time at Michigan, but struggled a bit at times in pass pro. Did a nice job. And Ladarius over there had a couple plays where he got stood up in running situations where he didn't have any effective movement. But overall, the offensive line did a great job in this football game of protecting JJ. I got 4 pressures in the entire game. Only 2 times was the offensive line responsible for him being touched.
Right.
2 times,
Yeah.
Ballas. Outstanding. No sacks. Just from an offensive line perspective, it's just like you guys did a really, really great job. Again, Sharon Moore,
Yeah.
great coach.
And health. I think, you know what, not Darius, Drake Nugent was playing on one leg in that Iowa game, and you could tell that he was struggling. He said he probably shouldn't have played with a high ankle sprain, and I understand that guys play through various injuries. That's a tough one when you are playing with a high ankle sprain, as you would know. So, but credit to the offensive tackles and the job that they did and the movement they got. I thought, you know what, in the running game, Michigan finished with, I think, 130 yards rushing or something like that, and it was enough. It was perfect.
It was enough, and of course the
Mhm.
late one, Ballas, the old 47G. We pull the guard, pull the tackle. Barnhart comes up, gets the kick, and then it was Trente comes around the corner, and I think it was Trente, but it was basically 47G. You kick the defensive end, the second body goes up to the front side linebacker, and Corum makes the rest of it happen.
Yeah.
That's old school, and it just felt like, again, back to the bright lights of the moment at the beginning there. Not only are you in the Rose Bowl and the stealth bomber flyover and the whole 9 yards in the moment, and then you look across the field and it's Alabama, right?
Yeah.
This is Alabama and Nick Saban, right? Oh my gosh, how do we measure up? And there's a moment there, right? And I think back to my time playing against the Washington team in '91 with Steve Ettman and that NFL offensive front. There was a lot of heart beating through the chest, like, oh my God, am I going to survive this, right? And it just felt like this offensive line at Michigan within the first series was like, wait a minute, these guys are wearing the red helmets, and that's Nick Saban standing over there, but shit, we can play with these guys. And
Yeah.
they just grabbed onto it really fast. Like, we
Yeah.
got this up
Yeah.
front with the Michigan offensive line. And so
Yeah.
they did a great job.
Yeah, it was special to watch. And when JJ McCarthy settled down, got into the flow, the last drive was a thing of beauty. There were a couple things that I saw, a couple of sweeps that looked like with some misdirection or something. What was on that last drive? Do you know what I'm talking about? They ran Corum left a couple of times where he's sweeping, and it wasn't any 47G that I saw. And maybe you'll have to go back and watch it.
I'd have
But
to go back and watch it. I don't recall the plays specifically that you're talking about,
okay.
but Michigan, I didn't see anything run wise that we haven't
Okay.
seen all year out of Michigan.
Okay.
There may have been a few more tendencies there, but Blake Corum, arguably my MVP of the Rose Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
just because of the way, again, he's Mike Hart 2.0,
He's blocking.
all blocking. The blocking is off the charts, and always falling forward and grinding, and the guy plays well beyond his physical stature out there.
He does. And he looked like the Blake Corum of old with some of those jump cuts.
Oh yeah,
And he's back to being, the Blake Corum that we saw. And I think he's going to have a big game against Washington as well. And we'll talk about Washington here in a minute. I thought it was really apropos, Michigan and Washington, for all the marbles here, man.
Here we go.
And God, ESPN's worst nightmare, right?
Oh yes, yes. I was joking around with some of my former teammates in a little text thread. Like I think the SEC is forming a committee to try to figure out a way to get one of their teams into this final. They just can't deal with
Right.
this reality. And so here we go. Yeah, it's an old Rose Bowl matchup. It's, Michigan, Washington. So here
Yeah.
we go.
Yeah, I got to tell you, by the way, I was on the field before the game at the Rose Bowl, and you're taking in the scenery. Did you ever have a chance when you were just a player to look around? And obviously, you're focused on the game, but I was watching Blake Corum, and I was right next to Donovan Edwards as they were talking, and Fred Jackson, who has been around forever. He's now there as an analyst. He went up to Donovan Edwards and he said, "Man, and he kind of looked over at us and said, "This isn't our last game, man. I just, he just thought he had a feeling." He said, "Can you feel it?" And Blake comes up to him, "Man, do you feel this?" And Dono says, "Can you feel this?" He goes, "Yeah, I feel this." And you look up and there's the mountains, right? And the field is as clean as any grass field that I have ever stepped on.
It's unbelievable. It looks like it's fake. When you step on it, you think it's fake. It is is McAfee, I think, in one of the pre-games is like, this is the best turf in all of North America. It is true. It's like Balas, you and I have played some pretty nice golf courses. That turf out there, did it not look like a well-manicured golf course? Like,
It did.
A real tight fairway, maybe the first cut on the green. It's unbelievable.
Unreal. And I'm out there in my shoes that are, slipping, and I can't slip. I can't slip on this stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, because we've seen guys in the past, TCU last year, right, on the inside, these guys were slipping everywhere. They were getting in and out of their cuts and everything else, and it was beautiful. But just the atmosphere was amazing. And the Michigan fans, I'll tell you what, I thought it was a mistake for Alabama. I understand that you want to be on defense first, but Michigan got to choose which way they went, and they went right towards that Michigan section, and it was loud. It was like going towards the Michigan student section. Scheme. Could you hear it on TV?
Oh yeah. You could the fans were you could hear, and then when Michigan was on the other end, you could hear the Bama fans too making some noise. But then I guess it would be the north end there, the Michigan end zone, the colored end there. You could feel and hear it, at least certainly on the television broadcast. So it's again, back to it's hard to describe if you haven't been there as a fan, certainly as a player. But yes, to your question, when we were freshmen, we got none of us were playing, so we had a chance to, look around like, oh my God, we're really in the Rose Bowl, and you can feel the entire history of college football when you're there, and all the players that have ever stepped on that field. It's one of those, Wayne's World moments where you're like, I'm not worthy to be here kind of feeling, and then you realize, oh, wait a minute, I got this uniform on. I'm supposed to be here. And here we go. And you could see the Michigan football team embrace that moment. And then unlike when we played all those decades ago, there is more after the Rose Bowl. There's another step. And these guys clearly kept that focus throughout the entire year, Ballas. And this is where they said they were going to get back to a year ago after the TCU debacle. They said this doesn't end this way, and we're going to fix this. And here they are. They've done it.
Yeah, they sure have. Real quick, I want to talk about Lewis Jewelers here, one of our sponsors who, I bought my wife a 5-year anniversary ring from them that was just unbelievable. Serving the Ann Arbor and Detroit regions since 1921, Lewis Jewelers' reputation and continued success stems from their belief that a successful jewelry store is built on integrity, quality customer service, and quality products. I bought a ton of stuff from them over the years. Lewis Jewelers are a proud partner of the Wolverine and Michigan Athletics to ensure every client that walks through their doors or peruses the virtual store is taken care of. They have a non-commissioned trusted advisor team that's always ready to provide professional experience, advice, and expertise. No pressure, no commission. And that's a big deal. If you go into some of those mall stores, Skene, you know what I'm talking about. So located in the bustling city limits of Ann Arbor, Michigan, Lewis Jewelers proudly serve the Ann Arbor and surrounding southeastern Michigan communities by providing an exquisite selection of fine jewelry as well as excellent customer service to its residents and visitors. And again, I can attest to that. Visit them at their location at 300 South Maple Road, Ann Arbor, or online at lewisjewelers.com. And I can't say enough good things about them. So we really appreciate them. So, all right, let's get back to talking a little bit of football here. And I want to talk once more about the last drive, Skene. What's your thought going into that? Because, with 41 yards to that point, and what were the adjustments that you saw from Alabama that made it tough on the Michigan offense in that second half?
Well, they loaded the box a little bit, right? They put more defenders near the line of scrimmage, and made it a little more difficult for us to do what we wanted to do, which was just run the football, which is our identity. It's who we
Mhm.
are. And I think Alabama's defensive staff sniffed that our quarterback wasn't on his A game. And so let's make him feel a little more pressure. And they did. And really in the second half on those first and tens, we had 4 first and tens with less than 2 yards.
Mhm.
And in the first half was the same, but in the second half we had more runs that went for less than 2 yards on first down. So, but that last drive, something happened on that sideline, Ballas, because
Yeah.
like I said earlier, the walls were closing in.
Yeah.
The things were slipping through their hands, and I sat on the couch. I'm thinking this is going to be disappointing, but here we go. Let's see if they've got it. And they found a way, right? And then Coach Harbaugh on the fourth down had to make the big decision there and didn't hesitate.
No.
And so he looked a little bit like Dan Campbell there for a moment,
Yeah.
with the fourth down. But he's been doing this all year, which is an indicator of his confidence in his players.
Yeah.
And he's got a veteran team out there, and they've all been here, done this. So let's just go do what we do. And so they executed, and there's nothing more to it. They just found a way to take a deep breath in that moment and go down and score. And then for a moment, it was them in total calm and control of the football game, and it's all that mattered.
Did you see the looping defensive lineman come over and almost get a hand on that pass to Blake
Yeah,
Coleman, by the way?
yeah,
We're talking a matter of inches. You want to talk about
yeah.
a game of inches? Here are 3 or 4 plays here, right? The first play, where the interception, where the kid's stepping out of bounds by an inch on the white,
His
right? His
back
back
cleat by about
cleat.
an inch and a half of his foot.
Exactly, and
Yep.
doesn't get reestablished. So that's one. Another one, the ball that J.J. McCarthy threw to Roman Wilson that got tipped, and it's going up. You know what? If it
And
goes
it's
up,
still spiraled.
it's still spiraled, and Roman Wilson climbs the ladder. You had a defensive back right there waiting to make that pick if he doesn't make
Yep.
the catch. A matter of inches. And then that last one with the looping defensive tackle, but Trente Jones was right there to pick him up. Those guys were in position. You want to talk about a well-coached offensive line for this game. And I cannot say enough, because that to me was going to be the difference in the game, right? That Michigan was not going to be able to contend with 2 ends, let alone 1, but they were healthier. Carson Barnhart is playing in position. We talked about this before the game, that it's not good to not have Zach Zinner out there, but Carson Barnhart is at least playing in his natural position. And you've got a guy in Trente Jones who hasn't played as much football and is fresh, really answered the bell, man. That's the kid that I really want to give credit to.
Yeah, Trente did a great job.
Yeah.
And like I said, back to 2 years ago when he was a starter, he got hurt in the Iowa game 2 years ago down in Iowa City there, and the right ankle injury, and then he's struggled to be in the lineup since, but has been on the field in short yardage and goal line situations many, many times. Trente consistently moves people.
Yeah.
He's a big, strong guy, and he's been effective in run blocking the whole time. But we can go back in the course of our podcast and look down at some of the plays, and in pass pro, Trente has got caught flat-footed, bent at the waist in pass pro, and given up some pressures and some hits. And so that's why we thought, oh my gosh, how is this going to work in this game? And then over on the left side with Ladarius, think of the Penn State game start, and even a couple snaps in the Ohio State game. It's like, oh, how are we going to protect the edge here? They both did an outstanding job. Carson going to right guard takes him back to familiar grounds. And listen, the reality is, being a guard and playing a little bit of tackle myself at Michigan, there's far more of a margin of error at guard than there is at tackle.
Mm-hmm.
You've got help to the left, you've got help to the right. And so it allows you to be a little more aggressive in there. It allows you to play a little more freewheeling in there. But you still have to have that spatial relationship in pass pro. And when you're dealing with twisting defensive linemen, half the battle is getting your body in position with your line mates before you even touch a defender. And if you're in the right position with my right hip, and if I'm Carson, if my right hip is in the right position with Trente at right tackle, and my left hip is in line with Nugent in center, we can pass anything off in front of us. As soon as one guy gets a hip exposed or out of alignment, one guy's too high or one guy's too deep, it falls apart really, really fast. And you can look at the way Michigan's defensive line executed against Alabama's offensive line. We got into their hips. You can't pass off twisting guys if your hips are out of alignment. So this is the kind of stuff that Coach Moore drilled into this offensive line and got them in position to have success, and they executed.
Yeah.
Did a great job.
Yeah, they sure did. All right, 20-19. Michigan's down there. Was there any thought going in through your head that maybe they'll go for two?
Oh
Because I
God,
was
no.
okay. I was all right, but I was a little nervous the way that William Wagner, with all due respect, has been snapping because you know what, he put the one on the ground and he had a couple of high ones, and I'm thinking, oh my God.
Yeah.
And James Turner wasn't on his game either.
No, well,
Yeah,
so when your snapper rolls one back,
yeah,
young guys again, big moment, big stadium, big opponent. It can rattle you a little bit.
yeah.
So he rolls one back. That's a disaster. It's embarrassing. The whole world is watching this football game, and you just embarrassed yourself in front of everybody. So then he goes out and compensates for a bullet that's high.
Yeah,
And now that throws off the rhythm of your kicker, and everybody's wondering, "Ooh, is this snap going to be good?"
right.
And that's natural. But he settles in. So no, there was no question in my mind. We're going to kick this thing. We're going to go to overtime. Dan Campbell, part two is not on the sidelines there for Michigan.
Okay, and then going shotgun on the play from the end zone. What in God's name? All right, I was,
I was at that point, Ballas.
what are you doing?
Again, I cannot compare myself to these guys in this coaching staff. I'm not
Right,
Jim Harbaugh, right? I'm just a
right.
commentator, a former fat guy. What are we doing here? Shotgunned into the end zone.
Pick the damn thing and live to fight another day, right? I'm thinking, what are you
Yes,
thinking?
yes, I
Yeah,
know. But
that's
again,
crazy.
this is Coach Moore and Coach Harbaugh. I'm like, we got this. I don't care where
Yeah,
we're at. I got guys that can
no.
execute. I don't worry about these kinds of things.
Well, I did. I'll
I
be
did
honest.
too.
So what could possibly go wrong, right?
Oh
Remember,
my
we lived through
gosh.
the trouble with the snap game. So, but really the calm, cool collectedness that they showed, especially on defense. You know what? When Mason Graham makes a play, and what a play! That was really one of the underrated plays of the game on second down there when he sniffs out the handoff to the running back and gets him for like a 4-yard loss.
Hmm.
Okay, now you know they're in 4-down territory. But as Jesse Minter told me in the locker room, he said, "Now we know it's going to be a 4-down. We're going to look at their two plays."
Yeah.
And yeah,
So that play in particular, because I
yeah,
read some of the comments from Coach Saban after the game, and there was some quotes about how they could have gotten into better looks
great.
on that particular play. If you go back and you look from the Skycam view, they asked their left guard, it was either left guard or center, I can't remember, to take an angle on Mason Graham. So if I'm the left guard, Mason's playing in my right arm, to my right arm in the A gap, and they asked him to cut him off from the backside. That's a damn hard block,
Yeah,
Ballas. Damn
yeah.
hard. So a more advanced offense, you look in there, your quarterback or your center, whoever it is, somebody goes, well, this blocking angle sucks. We're not going to do this in this moment. So let's change something, right? Kill, 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 easy, 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 opposite, opposite, whatever it is to get out of that blocking angle and get into something that makes more sense. You could gap and fold the backside, which means, all right, so let's bring the center backwards and I'll loop around the center to try to go at his guy. You seal up your angles. Alabama did not do that. Why didn't they do it? I don't know, but they didn't do it. And that allowed Mason Graham, who's a hell of a good player, obviously, to make the big play. So thank God that Alabama didn't adjust.
Yeah. And then I thought Josh Wallace played a really good game.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this kid, you know what, a Massachusetts kid from UMass, everybody's like, well, how's he going to play in the Big Ten? He's played these teams before. I think they played Alabama once before, if I'm not mistaken, when he was at UMass. So
Yeah.
but to make the tackle, okay, it's one thing to get beat and they get 11 yards on the play, but to not give it up and live to fight another day, right, for 4th and 3. But I think everybody knew that 4th and 3 play was going to Milrow. And the job that Derek Moore did, we didn't have any idea from where we were who made the play. Derek Moore gets underneath. He's being held like this by an offensive lineman. By the way, 5 games in a row now that Michigan's defensive line hasn't drawn a holding penalty.
And there were a couple, and
Steve?
there was a couple in their balance. I'm like,
What
that's
in
got
the
to be hold.
hell?
I
What's
don't
going
know.
on out there?
I
Okay,
don't
but
know.
for him to get underneath there, and then Josiah Stewart, another kid from Coastal Carolina,
Yep.
takes a 360-pounder and pushes his fat ass back into the backfield.
Leverage.
Over him. Unbelievable.
He got his left hand up
Yep.
underneath his shoulder pad and got the hip leverage and bench pressed him up and in and moved him into the backfield. Everybody knew because Milrow was going to have the ball, but what I
Yes.
thought before that snap was they're not going to trust this kid to throw a touch pass
No.
into this end zone. It's going to be him trying to find a crease in the middle, or they're going to roll him out and try to put a shoulder down and get in the end zone.
Yep.
And it was the first, and Michigan was ready. I think Michigan would have been equally ready if they had rolled him out. It might have been a given better chance, but
Yeah.
we submarine them. Our defensive line clearly won the battle in the trenches against their offensive front, and the result was big celebration.
It sure was, and that crowd went nuts, and boy, the
The
emotion.
players, you were there.
It
I've
was,
never seen a sideline get on the field faster than the
yeah.
end of that game. Like the game ended, and every guy in the Michigan sideline was instantly at the 50. I'm like,
A
that's the
couple guys,
fastest
a
sprint I've
couple
ever seen
guys
in my
said they
life.
were out there and thought they were going to get flagged once they saw it happen. But really, just the emotion, watching the coaches hugging their wives and in tears. And now you got to regroup because you still got a game to play here, Skene, on a Monday night. How confident are you? And you know, these guys are different, right? We've seen the emotion from these guys against Penn State, against Ohio State. They've always regrouped and come back. This team has that feel of just a championship team. I just can't see them losing on a Monday night, even as good as Washington's passing game is.
I think that I like our chances here, Balas.
Yeah.
I watched the entire Texas Washington game and was texting with my buddies there, my era of players, and
Mm-hmm.
watching the game all together and sharing our thoughts. We like our chances of our running game versus their defensive front.
Yeah.
They had a disruptive number 8 there for Washington, was all over the place. You can pass protect this guy. And I just think if we line up and run our base offense and they want to load the box with moving their safeties down, fine. I think our tight ends are going to have a bigger day in this championship game. I think our wide receivers will have a bigger day in this championship game. And quite frankly, Blake Corum should be the MVP of the national championship game because I got a feeling we're going to be able to run the football on these guys. So
And
I like that matchup. And defensively,
yeah.
they have a nice left tackle who's going to play guard in the NFL. Kid's really good, but he's a body of a guard in the NFL, maybe even a
Mhm.
center, but he'll be a guard in the NFL. He's their best player. The rest of their offensive line does not look any better than Alabama's. So I like our chances there. And if we can get Penix a little uncomfortable and don't give him the time to launch those darts deep, because that's his
No.
best. He's
Yeah.
really good at throwing the darts to the deep ball.
Yeah.
And he's got incredible receivers who are really good at one-on-ones. But if he don't have time balance, it ain't going to matter.
Yeah. 11 sacks they've given up this year on 522 pass attempts. Okay. So I'm going to say they're a little better than Alabama in pass protection.
Well, that's also quarterback,
Experience.
Balas. That's
Right.
also a quarterback who gets rid of the football and wide
Yep.
receivers that are on time, on schedule to be in
Right.
their route. So it's
Yeah.
not all on the offensive line, but
True.
listen, they're there for a reason. They're undefeated for a reason. I watched a few of their games, watched the Apple Cup game. This team, this Washington team, you ain't going to phase them. They ain't going to
Mhm.
be afraid of it. They believe they're going to find a way to win, just like our team does.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it, man. It's going to be fantastic. So we actually are on our way to Houston on Friday. Unbelievably long season, Skene. This is crazy. I mean,
And the good news is, Ballas, we're talking about football.
we are. It's 15. This will be 15 games, man. And it's like I remember when we used to be done before Thanksgiving. We'd go get fat and happy and have some pumpkin pie and stuff like that, and not have to worry about the. You go to a bowl game and it's all fun. All right, the state of bowl games now, an embarrassment. Something's got to be done there, right? Because that just cannot continue.
So I made it a point to watch 2 games. I wanted to see
Mhm.
two of the matchups. I wanted to see Georgia, Florida State. That game was over in the first 3 possessions.
Yes.
And I texted a buddy. I said, "This is good God, this is going to be over," and
Yeah.
it was bad. So I
Yeah.
ended up turning that off. And I didn't. I read later that Florida State had 19 players that
Yes.
didn't play in that game.
Many
So
starters.
that yeah. And
Yeah.
then of course the other game I wanted to see. I want to see the Buckeyes play against Missouri.
Yeah.
And so I turned the game on and I watched that whole game, Ballas, because I was just in shock.
Yeah.
Like who are these guys in Ohio State uniforms and where did they come from?
They didn't
Because
care.
this did not look like a team that I watched play the season.
No.
And they looked like a team offensively, especially offensively, that had no interest in being there. It was like chicken sandwich time before the game even started. And it
And by
was
the way,
really bad. And so as a commentary on the bowl season itself, these non-playoff games a year from now, these non-playoff bowl games are a total joke. They are
yep.
nothing more than spring football 2.0. You'll have family and friends in the stands. I feel bad for the guys that are seniors that are going to play in their last games because no one's going to care. The top 10 players on their team aren't even going to play.
Right.
And it's exhibition football and no one cares. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, what'll be interesting is the 12 teams that are in it. I'm assuming, think about this, Ballas. Will all of those players play? Let's take the number 12 seed next year.
Right.
And maybe they just got in and their first matchup is against number 1 Michigan or number 1 Alabama. You think be some guys going, you know what, we're not going to win, so I'm going to opt out anyway. Sorry, coach, I'm not playing this game. I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Sadly, I think it's going to happen, but it'll be an improvement from what we have now, which is 4 teams that are all in and everyone else who doesn't really give a shit.
Yeah, well, there will be others that do because they're going to be, for example, Georgia didn't get in, and they could have won the whole thing this year.
Yep.
Oregon, I think, had a case, that okay, we could beat anybody there.
Yep.
So I think there will be several that do, but there's no question that the bowl game season has just become an absolute joke, and half of them are named, names I've never even heard of before.
Yeah, it's really, really bad. It is the collapse of the bowl system as we knew it. And next year is the dawn of a new era. I think we're going to be 12 teams for a long time, but I wouldn't be surprised if that gets up to 16 or more in the future as these other bowl games become totally uninteresting.
I would agree. All right, last thing I want to talk about is that Lions game. I told you they cheat. They cheat the Lions. And now the NFL's trying to cover its ass by saying that, well, they shouldn't have tried to confuse him. The guy went out there, Taylor Decker went up there and showed him his number and told him, come on, man.
And Coach Campbell drew the play up, told him explicitly what it was going to be before the game. The white hat, I think his name is Allen, right? The referee, the guy in the white hat, absolutely dropped the ball and screwed it up. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You can't even say the formation itself. Skipper wasn't even eligible on that play. Decker was. It's not a discussion. Right. The guy in the white hat screwed it up and cost the Lions dearly.
Yes.
And maybe a second home playoff game. I don't know. But as I watch that game and I'm watching the Lions, there's a couple things that come to mind. They're going to be all right, Balas. They're ahead. Yeah. They're ahead of the schedule of this general manager and this head coach has got them going. Yeah. They're 2 or 3 guys away from being an NFC championship contender, I think, really. And they may be this year. I don't know. Yeah. They really may be. They got some special guys, and they got it going. And
talk about our guy.
Well, which one?
Aiden Hutchinson.
Well, obviously, Aiden. I mean, come on. The kid he's doing what he's been doing since we've been watching him forever. He only has 1 gear, and he goes all out. And then you see him tap his head. I need a breather. He's out of the game. He's back in the game. He had that inside spin move and absolutely swallowed up Dak Prescott. And it's like this kid's got 3 sacks against a pretty damn good offensive line. Yeah, he's going to be an All-Pro and maybe even this year. And so he's awesome to watch. But there's other guys, and so the Lions need someone opposite him, if it's getting back Houston or whoever it is on that other end, to take some pressure off him because they still slide his way, Balas. They were bringing Ferguson in and chipping him to slow him down. They need someone to take a little bit of heat off of him, and they need a corner, right? And they got to keep that offensive line intact. These Detroit Lions are going to be fine. What I have a question for you is, if the LA Rams come to town in the first round of the playoffs, are you going to get your Stafford jersey out and your Stafford?
Come on, man! Paint? I told you I was happy that he got his.
Are you going to?
Super Bowl. No, hell no. I'm all in for the Lions, man. We were out there watching it. We were pissed off, and I almost got thrown out of NBC Universal and Universal Studios. You know me. I get a little bit hot sometimes, and I was livid because I'm like, they cheated him again. Did you grow up a Cowboys fan or a Lions fan? Or
I grew up a Cowboys fan. I was a Cowboys forever. Well, you can say that in fairness, but when we left, when Jerry Jones bought the team and immediately fired Tom Landry, who was one of my childhood heroes. I love Coach Landry, and that upset me. So that was the first chink in the armor for my love for the Dallas Cowboys. And then when you go through the college football experience and then you make it to the NFL, suddenly your childhood favorite team for me didn't matter anymore. And I've enjoyed watching the Cowboys struggle over all these years. So I don't call myself an official Lions fan, but I'm becoming one, obviously with the tie-in with Hutch, and I want to see him do well. And I'm really enjoying watching this head coach and this football team because Balas, similar but not the same. They're coming together. They play with grit. They play with toughness. And the general manager is drafting football players, unlike previous general managers in Detroit who brought in guys who didn't love football, right? Yep. They're bringing in football players. They got a coach who has an eye for football players, and it's enjoyable to watch. Yeah.
Culture matters, Deion Sanders, right? Prime time. Prime. All right, last thing here. Your thoughts. Give me a score in the Michigan-Washington game. I got something like Michigan. I think Michigan 34 to 24 or something like that. Seems
Yeah.
right to me.
I like that 34-21
Yeah.
ish.
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing Penix is going to get his shots. They're going to
Yeah.
make some. They're going to make some big hits. I just don't see how they do it the entire game, and they're not going to run the football down our throat. I think they may have lost their number one running back.
Sadly.
He left with what looked like a pretty bad foot injury. I think his foot might have got crunched by one of those big boys
Yeah.
up front there. So that's a big loss for them. So I like a 2-possession, 10-point, maybe even 14-point win for Michigan.
Okay.
I just want to see our quarterback have a calm start, JJ, because we know he's better than what he was. And just take a deep breath. This is the Washington Huskies. This is not the Detroit Lions. This is not the 49ers or the Baltimore Ravens we're playing here.
Right.
So I think this is the lessons learned from this Rose Bowl and getting over the Nick Saban Alabama hump will play well for us come Monday night.
I do too. Last question. I can't begrudge Jim Harbaugh if he decides that he gets here and now he's taking Michigan to the pinnacle and wants to go to the pros. I don't think any other Michigan fan should either. Your thoughts?
I don't. They shouldn't. They shouldn't
No.
because especially if we win Monday night, which I think we will. The guy has climbed the mountain, several mountains, and will have climbed it to get to the national championship at Michigan. I mean, it's obvious, if anybody that's watched Coach Harbaugh, this is one of the most competitive human beings ever on the planet. This dude gets irritated when he loses at a game of cornhole, Balas, on a holiday, right? So for him to get here with Michigan and the right opportunity comes along and he gets to go chase a Lombardi trophy, he just turned 60, the clock is ticking. I think if it comes along, he'll take it, and I won't blame him one bit. We'll say, thank you, coach. And then the bigger question I have is, how many guys does he take with him from his Michigan staff to the NFL? Because I'm interested in who the next coach is going to be in retaining as much of the staff as possible. But that's an era in college football that has passed in that you get a lot of staff changes when you have coaching changes, but hopefully it works out.
Yeah, Jesse Minter will be an NFL coach. I think he'd take Ben Herbert with him, which would be tough.
That'd be tough.
It would
I
be.
know.
But I love Sharon Moore, and I think it will be him. There's no question about it in my mind. So, but let's see what happens. We'll see if he has the right opportunity here. So we'll talk more next week after the national championship game. Hopefully a good one from Michigan. Doug Skene on the Skene and Balas show this week only, and we'll have you on next week. Thanks, Doug. Happy New Year, brother.
Go Blue.